Kia ora interlopers, it's the Niche Cast. Big Ritzos to the wildcard who is on the other end of the line. It's your boy, the Diggity Doodah Doc, the Haidamai Soldier, aka Matua27, also known as Young Chili, the S Millie, and Wildcard. To kick us off, I'm just going to drop a little quote that I heard on the Moment podcast with Brian Koppelman. He had a restaurateur from New York. I forget his name because I dabble in marijuana usage, but the quote was, "Adversity is a hell of a thing to waste." So I just want to get your thoughts on that before we get underway with some Blackcaps ODI chitter chatter.
Well, there's the best minute of podcasting that we've done in a long time, Doc. Adversity is a hell of a thing to waste. No disagreements here. What are you pushing up against if you got nothing to push up against, right?
Resistance.
Those
have actually been...
Resistance is not futile.
Not at all, and it's weird how listening to a bunch of different podcasts, hugely different topics and people and interests, a couple this week, ideas that were in these podcasts that became trends because I listened to the same ideas so often, and then you can obviously apply it to your own life and own situations. Resistance was one of them. Feedback, getting feedback and using feedback quickly and efficiently, and a bit of growth as well. So starting with or stemming from adversity is a hell of a thing to waste. I think you can extrapolate that out to resistance, feedback, and growth.
Well, feedback is humility, isn't it? It's being open to other ideas and other people's interpretations and not taking yourself too seriously to think that everything you do is perfect. Resistance is almost like, it's not the opposite, but it's like, that's, I guess resistance is what shapes what you're striving towards, isn't it? Because it's what you're having to compete against, and competition is always a very healthy thing if you do it in the right manner. I'm feeling pretty enlightened this morning now.
For example, my resistance at the moment is an almighty case of the sniffles.
Oh, I've been there before.
And a general, flu symptoms that I've had for a couple of days, but then you gotta use that resistance to take on board what it means and resting, relaxing, and ensuring that you're in peak physical condition moving forward. But countering that with showing up every day in terms of writing for the Niche Cache, because that's how you make progress, is regardless of the circumstance, you show up every day, patter on the keyboards, and just get there to what it is your passion, what it is you're doing every single day.
Things are always more fulfilling when you have to work for them too, aren't they? Like when you have to overcome something, then you know you've actually achieved something at the end of it. Especially if that achievement is something that you've set yourself out towards, the thing that you know is your calling, the thing that you've just been told that, and not told by a person, told in terms of some deeply understood subconscious knowledge that was always there but had to be unlocked kind of thing. That's where it's at.
That is where it's at indeed, Wildcard. You got any tunes you're listening to, or just any videos or TV series that you've been watching over the summer break?
Not really. I've hardly watched much TV, to be honest. I've sort of gotten out of the habit of... It's like an investment, and I don't feel like I can just sit there night after night. I've never been a binger, for one thing, so I don't watch show after show after show. I get one or two in a night, but then it's 10 episodes. This is every night this week. Nah, not really invested in that. I am working my way through that Sunderland thing on Netflix, though.
Is that a documentary?
Yeah, it's behind the scenes of the year after they got relegated from the Premier League, and so it's quite funny. It's they're set up in a way, it's funny in a tragic way. They've set it up where it's the start of the season, everyone's real Yeah, now we're Sunderland, huge club. We're gonna go on. We're gonna bounce straight back up. We've made these great signings. It's everyone's great atmosphere around the training field. The lads are real fired up, and then it just goes from worse to worse, and they end up getting relegated again. It's if it's good fun if you're like a proper football, well, even any old sports fan. It's just like to know the whole thing where everyone wants to succeed at the end of the year. Everyone's got like their ideas of where this club, this player, this team should be, and I swear 95% of the time you fall below that because everyone wants to be slightly better than their expectations. If you want to win the trophy, if you're a Premier League club wants to win the trophy, well, there's 20 clubs. Realistically, probably 3 of them can win, but even then, that's a 1 in 3 chance of winning. You're more likely than not to be disappointed at the end of the season, and it seems to be the one constant with a lot of sports is being able to learn how to lose. You know what I mean? To learn how to deal with setbacks, and it is a rewarding thing in its own way, but it's a pretty bloody it's a struggle. I'll tell you that, it's a struggle at times.
Adversity is a hell of a thing to waste, Wildcard.
Adversity is a hell of a thing to waste.
I will get into some Blackcaps chat in a jiffy. I just want to recommend a collaborative musical project with Wiz Khalifa and Currency called 2009. Wiz Khalifa and Currency teaming up just to drop a kind of a callback to when they kind of first were coming up in the scene, and obviously share a close relationship. It's full of bangers, full of kind of inspiration, hustling, weed smoking music. So anyone out there who needs a bit of hip hop to start their year, get on to Currency and Wiz Khalifa and Currency 2009. We have just got through, endured the first ODI between the Blackcaps and Bangladesh, coming after India absolutely gave the Blackcaps a hiding. And we're now in this Bangladesh ODI series. The Blackcaps cruised to victory. It wasn't smooth sailing, but they cruised in the sense that they didn't really have to stress too much. They had to play good cricket with bat and ball. They had to challenge themselves and do the cricket thing really well to actually get the win. But it's very interesting times in terms of the Blackcaps at the moment, Wildcard. And ahead of that game, you asked me the over-under, which is a concept that we're going to have to build on. The over-under of Todd Astle, I think you said 6 overs?
I said 5, I think.
5, so
I said more than 5, and then you specified, I think, 5.5, so getting into the 6th over. Something along those lines, anyway.
Yeah, because I having listened to a lot of Bill Simmons podcasts and whatnot, the over under stuff.
I tell you, I've gone right off him a bit, eh? I think because the Patriots were winning.
I like hearing about the Patriots. That's another topic for another day, Wildcard.
I like Cousin Sal, but yeah, we'll leave this one for now.
Because I've actually learned a whole lot from the Patriots' success. But when they do over unders, it's always like 5.5. It's never. It's not often a whole number. So I kind of. I don't know if it works in terms of the overs, but I went 5.3 overs, which is in terms of deliveries. So 5 overs and 3 deliveries. So it's. I don't know
deliveries overall.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. So, but over under. So you basically said over under. He's going to bowl X amount of overs. I think we both took the under. And then...
And we were both right.
Funnily enough, Todd Astle, I think Todd Astle's a mediocre leg spinner and a battling tail ender in ODI cricket. He didn't even play.
I reluctantly concur.
He didn't even play in this ODI game. So what do you make of that? Like we are in this series against Bangladesh where we are trying to learn about cricketers ahead of the World Cup with the bigger picture in mind. Todd Astle, as you tweeted, has been selected to prove himself, to get more. The Blackcaps selectors and coach, they want more insight into what Todd Astle does, and he didn't even play. So we'll start with the Blackcaps Bangladesh first ODI discussion with the non-selection of Todd Astle and your kind of views around that.
I mean, it makes absolutely no sense at all, does it? Because what we were talking about when we were wondering about the overs and unders, the unspoken kind of assumption there was that he'd definitely play, because just why else is he being picked? But like, I mean, maybe we'll come back to this later on as well, but just the fact that they're still looking at and auditioning players this close to the World Cup, it just does my head in. But just on this ODI in particular, we played India at the same ground early on in that series, and India picked 3 spinners and destroyed us. So that in itself doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, they've got all these all-rounders, they're trying to get them all in, so I kind of get it, because, you know, Todd Astle's played a lot, and he hasn't done a lot. And there was that test where, you remember the day-night test at Eden Park? I forget who they're playing, was it England? Or someone like that. And he didn't bowl until what it was effectively the final day of the test, ended up getting the winning wicket, got like 2 for 20 at the end, didn't bowl at all in the first innings. And it seems like, well, I mean, did he play 1 or 2 games against India? Well, there's one where he got like a wicket at the end, bowling 2 overs. It seems to be the trend with him is that I'm not sure Kane Williamson actually rates him that highly as a bowler. He doesn't seem to think of him as like a useful option. So he gets picked and then he doesn't do anything, and then he doesn't get picked, so he doesn't do anything, and it all just kind of keeps his name hovering around, and it's a really weird one, like persevering with a guy who even your captain doesn't seem to have a massive idea upon. And Todd Astle's a damn solid player. He's just not really more than a solid player, and I'm not sure it's particularly fair on anyone involved to push that. It's just weird, especially because I mean, you know about my my theory of Guptill syndrome, don't you? Where like the tendency to overrate one player in one form of the game because they do really well in the other. So Martin Guptill being the poster boy, literally world-class ODI batsman, pretty mediocre test batsman, but you constantly see him scoring runs in ODIs, and then you can tell the people who don't like follow cricket closely enough when they say, why isn't he in the test team though? Get Martin Guptill back in the test team. Like, what are we doing here? So, well, what we're doing here is picking players for the forms that they excel at, and Todd Astle is not a particularly good ODI, well, one-day player in general. He earned his way into the test team for sure. Don't know that he's done that in the ODI team, so it's a little weird one. And, well, it's a significantly weird one. It's a large, considerably, chasmic, weird situation.
An interesting idea you raised there is Captain Kane Williamson, and the usage of Todd Astle does suggest that Kane Williamson does not have a whole lot of confidence in him.
I mean, you see that as well, I'm not, projecting that.
Yeah, no, so I think that's a thing, but just a random idea is who, based on the fact that they both play for Northern Districts Knights, you might think that Kane Williamson has more confidence in Ish Sodhi, and the same goes for Mitchell Santner. So just an interesting idea. We'll try and move through these Blackcaps topics fairly quickly, just because we're going to be back after every Blackcaps game at the moment, so there's plenty of time to work our way through different ideas and thoughts.
Yeah, and you also didn't play, so...
Yeah. You said there that about the formats for Todd Astle. My thing, I reckon, is that he's not a international format cricketer.
Okay.
Which is a pretty big issue there. You did mention Martin Guptill, and he had a new opening partner.
Yeah, how about that?
Well, this isn't a brand new thing because it did happen in the Indian series, but you did have Henry Nicholls opening. And I'm going to weave these two ideas together, wildcard, because Guptill and Henry Nicholls both scored runs at the top of the order. So the thing here after that first ODI is Bangladesh is a very different team and a very different situation to India. India came to New Zealand fresh off a series against Australia, which is, regardless of what you think about Australian cricket, a series in Australia is going to be tough. It's going to be niggly. You're going to have to play good cricket to win. So they were not only come into New Zealand on the back of a competitive cricket ODI series, but they were playing in Australian conditions, prepared for Kiwi conditions, and India are also very good, with very good plans, very well researched, which we saw. So I say that to say Bangladesh haven't played an ODI since December, and they have now spent just around roughly a week in New Zealand, less than a week before that first ODI. So that is to say that Bangladesh, like Martin Guptill, should be scoring a century against Bangladesh, and based on what we know about Kiwi cricketers, that ODI was a perfect scenario for Henry Nicholls to score a half century as well, because Kiwi cricketers love to bully subcontinent Asian teams. We saw it against Sri Lanka as well. Like, the Blackcaps bullies is a very real thing against touring teams with limited preparation in Aotearoa. So I'm cautious. Like, I like Henry Nicholls at the top of the order, so we'll get to the general idea of Henry Nicholls opening, but it's also a thing, like, if Colin Munro was opening in that game, he probably would have smacked like 50 off 20 balls and everyone would be celebrating Colin Munro. Regardless of who was opening in that game, the context around Bangladesh and the work that the bowlers did in the bowling innings up front probably lent itself to whoever was opening scoring runs. So it's a weird one, and I don't really want to judge Henry Nicholls too much off that, but the idea of Henry Nicholls opening wildcard, how does it sit with you, and is it something that you can see being successful moving forward?
Yeah, I don't know how successful it will be in the long term. I don't know that he's like perfectly well adjusted to just like see off the best bowling attacks in the world whilst also scoring runs in a one-day format. Not convinced on that, but I mean, I also don't believe Colin Munro was going to do that at the World Cup for sure. I mean, you know what Colin Munro would have done at the World Cup, and he might still be there. We don't know how things will go. But Colin Munro would have like bashed an 80 or 40 balls against like Bangladesh or Sri Lanka, and then he would have just like nicked off for 4 against pretty much everyone else. And Nicholls maybe it's a change of strategy, isn't it? Because you're going away from that McCullum-style blaster at the top of the innings to someone who's going to have to build an innings a little more. And we know that Guptill takes his time to get into things. And in the past, when he's been with like less, with dudes who don't take the pressure off him that well, sometimes he's had issues with that. But I mean, I think you trust Guppy to do whatever he's going to do, because he is, potentially the third best ODI batsman New Zealand's ever had, and 1 and 2 are coming in at 3 and 4. Not necessarily in that order, though, I'll add. If you're Colin Munro, though, are you feeling a little bit pissed off by this? Because, like you said, this is a perfect example for Nicholls to just come in and score some runs, because the situation is just like built for it. An unprepared Bangladesh team in New Zealand circumstances, they struggle here at the best of times, even without, that's the other thing, no Shakib either. So, Nicholls is probably going to do enough to hold his position going into the World Cup. If Munro played, like you said, he probably would have belted a few runs and people would have been saying, well, here we go, Colin Munro back in some form. He's had enough chances, so I don't think he can be upset that he's dropped, but he can maybe be a little bit upset at just how convenient it is for his replacement to come in and just, put a hammer and nail into the coffin.
Yeah, I think Colin Munro got exposed.
That's a good word for it.
This is a two-part idea. I think he got exposed in an ODI series against South Africa, I remember, maybe last summer, the summer before, and South Africa tied him up, and then Colin Munro gets frustrated and he just tries to have a slog, which is what he does, and he got out. And then, ever since then, I think the better teams who have better bowling attacks, who have better plans, who can execute those plans, expose Colin Munro as someone who can only bat in a limited fashion in the international arena. So I don't know if Colin Munro can feel any type of way, and I would also, my belief is that Henry Nicholls is better equipped as a batsman to deal with those first 10 overs, because better
than Munro.
Better than Munro, and I think
fair call.
I don't want to go too deep into this idea, but it's so bloody hard to attack the best bowlers of the opposition with a new ball, 2 new balls at either end. Like, Brendan McCullum could barely do it, and we're expecting Colin Munro, who like is more agricultural, to do it. It's just a very weird idea. So to finish with wildcard, I've got an over-under for you. I'm gonna this we might have a interesting record with these over-unders, because who knows, maybe Colin de Grandhomme doesn't play in the second ODI versus
Yeah.
Bangladesh. But my over-under is going to be runs scored from Colin de Grandhomme. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on what kind of line you're going to take. I'd say I'm taking. Oh, he's playing against Bangladesh. Bangladesh are going to be slightly better in the second ODI. And that is going to mean Colin de Grandhomme bats. And I'm going to take over 15.
I thought you were going to go higher than that. I was thinking ballpark about 20. But that does, I mean, chances are New Zealand will bat first in one of the last 2 ODIs. Chances are that means he'll probably get a go, if only at the end for a bit of a slog. I think I'd go over on that too. I think de Grandhomme is a perfectly encapsulated Blackcaps bully, as you're talking about before. I think he is that like stereotype dude who can just pummel the fellas weaker than him, struggles against those better than him. I'd even go over 30 if we're going for the whole series. I think we can double that. Don't know that I mean, it's going to get him into the World Cup squad, I think, but I don't know that it's going to get him into the first 11.
I definitely have Colin de Grandhomme as a Blackcaps bully. There's just something in me that feels like Colin de Grandhomme is going to play his way out of World Cup selection in this Bangladesh series.
Yeah, I quite like his bowling though, to be honest. I don't think he's a wicket taker, but I don't think he's going to get pummeled as often as some of the other guys are. And we do have a couple of, like Henry and Ferguson, are good examples of guys who are wicket takers, but also leak a lot of runs. I don't mind de Grandhomme. I just don't see how you can squeeze him into the team. But I mean, it's not the worst thing to have a bully as your 15th man at the World Cup, is it? Bring him in for the minnow games, even though there are no minnow games anymore because of the format of the World Cup. But we will get to play Bangladesh, West Indies along the way, so that's where he can shine. Plays 2 games, scores 100 runs at a strike rate of 130. Bingo, done his job.
Roger that, wildcard. The second ODI between Blackcaps and Bangladesh is tomorrow, Saturday.
Saturday, yeah.
What's on your writing agenda for the next 24 hours?
That would be Stephen Adams, maybe a little bit of breakers, but generally basketball, I believe.
Generally basketball. I will
get a breakers thing done. It's just whether it's this weekend or early next week.
Yeah, I got some Kiwi UFC stuff to catch up on.
Oh, beauty.
I think Jordan Kahu is going to the North Queensland Cowboys to play fullback, which is bloody exciting for me as a Kiwi NRL fan. And yeah, that's it, wildcard. We'll be back Sunday. We'll come straight back after the Blackcaps ODI, second ODI, and we'll chat our way through that wildcard. You can sign off if you like. We'll give you the honour of any last word.
Beauty. I don't know. What do I need to say here? Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all that kind of thing. The Niche Cash. Doing it for all the battlers out there. Patreon, don't forget that one. Good to be back, Doc. How good is the podcast? How good is the podcast as a format?
Yeah, fucking A.